Okay, so when we talk about the economy, what are we actually talking about? Is it the price of your morning coffee, or is it the national unemployment rate you hear about on the news? Well, it turns out economics has two very different ways of looking at the world, one for the small picture and one for the big one.
I mean, these feel like they're from two totally separate universes, right? One is super personal, it's about your choices, your budget. The other feels like this massive abstract thing that affects millions of people. So the big question is, how do we even connect the two?
And the answer is, you really can't use the same tool for both jobs. To get a real handle on the economy, you need two distinct but connected lenses. Think of it like the difference between a magnifying glass and a satellite orbiting the Earth.
So let's grab that magnifying glass first and zoom way in. We're going to start with the small picture, microeconomics. Microeconomics is all about the individual players in the game. We're talking about you, me, our families, and the businesses we buy from every day. It's the study of decisions. What do we choose to buy? What do companies decide to produce? And how do we all interact in very specific markets? This view gets right into the nitty-gritty of our economic lives. Microeconomics asks why you picked one brand of cereal over another. It looks at how a local pizza place figures out its prices, or how many baristas a coffee shop should hire. Here's a perfect example of a micro question. If the price of gasoline suddenly spikes, how does that change how much people drive? See, it's really specific, it's focused on one market, gas, and it all boils down to the choices we make as individuals.
And that's the whole point, really. All those seemingly small, individual decisions, they add up. Microeconomics helps us understand how things get divvied up and how well our markets are working. It's the foundation, the literal building blocks of the entire economy.
All right, time to put down the magnifying glass and zoom out. I mean, way, way out. We're going from street level to that satellite view to get the big picture with macroeconomics. With macro, we are absolutely not looking at individual trees anymore. We're looking at the whole forest. This is the study of huge economy-wide forces. We're talking about the total output of an entire country, the overall level of prices, and the unemployment rate for the whole nation. These are the topics you hear about all the time on the news. Gross domestic product, or GDP, inflation, and how it affects what your money can buy. What the government does with taxes and spending, that's fiscal policy. Or what the central bank does with interest rates, that's monetary policy. It is all macro. So what kind of question does macroeconomics ask? Well, think bigger. Like, if the central bank raises interest rates, what happens to the entire country's economic growth and the job market? These are massive questions with consequences that affect absolutely everyone. And this is why macro is so important. It's the lens we use to make sense of huge events like economic booms or painful recessions. It helps us evaluate what our governments are doing and how our country fits into the whole global economy. Okay, so we've looked through both lenses separately. Now let's put them right next to each other to really nail down how they're different. When you see it like this, the contrast is just crystal clear, isn't it? On the left, micro is zeroed in on individuals in a single market asking about specific prices. Then you hop over to the right, and macro is looking at the entire economy on a national scale, asking about gigantic trends like inflation. Even the variables tell the story. It's the price of one single product versus the income of an entire nation. So which one's better? Well, that's actually the wrong question. The real magic happens when you realize you need both to get the complete picture. They're not fighting each other. They're basically two sides of the same coin. Think about it this way. Microeconomics is personal. It explains the world you actually see and touch every single day. The prices at the grocery store, your job, the business you might even own one day. It's your world. And macroeconomics? Well, that explains the world your world lives in. It's all the big currents of inflation, interest rates, and global trade that shape the environment for all those little individual decisions. It's the world. And this, right here, is the key takeaway. A forest is nothing more than a giant collection of individual trees. In the same way, the macroeconomy is just the sum of all the microeconomic decisions made by billions of people every day. You literally cannot understand one without the other. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you see a headline about the economy, doesn't matter if it's about rising food prices or a change in the national debt, which lens are you going to reach for first? The magnifying glass or the satellite?